Hello, my dear friends. I'm myself Dr. Rajesh Guba. I'm a full-time cardiologist and a part-time YouTuber. Welcome to my daily dose today. So, I'm also the mentor for the general medicine for exams like NEET PG, AIMS, PGI, and as well as JIPMER. So, in this daily dose, the question is as follows. I have a 59-year-old man presenting for a personal checkup, and he has cardiovascular, respiratory, gastrointestinal, neurological examination being performed. There is no significant abnormality except during auscultation there is a mid systolic click followed by a late systolic murmur which is heard at the apex. The patient denies any symptoms. What is the most likely diagnosis? The options are Barlow's syndrome, Austin-Flint murmur, patent ductus arteriosus, Gram-Steele's murmur, Carey-Combs murmur. Now, so if you take the clinical scenario here, the clinical scenario is that the individual is completely asymptomatic. And what is that particular individual has come for? The individual has just come for a routine checkup. And the examination was showing you a mid systolic click and as well as a late systolic murmur which is present at the apex. That is a very important finding in this particular patient to diagnose, and this is what is called as, you see in mitral valve prolapse syndrome, right? You will see mid systolic click with late systolic murmur in mitral valve prolapse syndrome. And another name of mitral valve prolapse syndrome is your Barlow's syndrome, right? Another name of this mitral valve prolapse syndrome is also called Barlow's syndrome. So the answer in this particular question is Barlow's syndrome. Then how to rule out the other options, right? Let me take up this particular question as well. You take this Austin-Flint murmur. Now Austin-Flint murmur, remember, it is not a late systolic murmur, it is a mid diastolic murmur which is heard at the apex itself. But in which scenario you will have this Austin-Flint murmur? You will have this Austin-Flint murmur in patients with aortic regurgitation. Actually, in aortic regurgitation, you will have early diastolic murmur. But this Austin-Flint murmur is due to the regurgitant jet will hit the anterior mitral leaflet. Thereby, the anterior mitral leaflet will move towards the posterior mitral leaflet, and the mitral valve area, it becomes narrowed. And thereby, you will get a mid diastolic murmur when the blood is moving from left atrium to the left ventricle. So basically, it is due to the mitral valve displacement due to the turbulence which is being created by the aortic regurgitation. So that is your Austin-Flint murmur. Then you take the PDA murmur. PDA murmur, again, it is not the late systolic murmur. PDA murmur, it is the continuous murmur, right? PDA murmur, it is a continuous murmur. Okay, and where is this best heard? Remember, the PDA murmur, which is also called the machinery murmur, it is heard best in the first left intercostal space, and that particular area is called as Gibson's area. So it is best heard in the Gibson's area, and the name of the murmur is also called Gibson's murmur. So in that way, you can rule out the mid systolic click with late systolic murmur what we have in our patient. Now, the other important murmur like what is given in the options is the Gram-Steele's murmur. Gram-Steele's murmur is the one which is seen in patients with pulmonary hypertension, right? And in patients with pulmonary hypertension, they will develop what is called pulmonary regurgitation. And in pulmonary regurgitation, the murmur what you will have is the early diastolic murmur. And it is a right-sided murmur, pulmonary regurgitation. So these particular right-sided murmurs, they will increase on inspiration, right? They will increase on inspiration. And where are they best heard? Remember, they are not heard at the apex. They are heard at the left sternal edge, right? That is the location of your Gram-Steele's murmur. And the other murmur given in the options was the Carey-Combs murmur. Carey-Combs murmur, it is seen in patients with acute rheumatic fever. Right, it is seen in patients with the acute rheumatic fever, and again it is not the late systolic murmur. Remember, the Caricum's murmur, it is mid diastolic murmur. Right, it's a mid to late diastolic murmur, we can call it as. Right, and why is that? Again, this is in patients with acute rheumatic fever, they will develop MR. In MR, actually you will get pansystolic murmur, but due to mitral regurgitation, the regurgitant blood into the left atrium, and as well as the left atrium also contain the pulmonary venous blood. So the quantity of the blood in the left atrium increases, and the large quantity of the blood will pass through the normal mitral valve area, giving rise to the diastolic murmur. Right, so Caricum's murmur, it is mid to late diastolic murmur, and this Caricum's murmur, it is also heard in patients with VSD, and it is also heard in patients with the patent ductus arteriosus. So Caricum's murmur means don't just go with acute rheumatic fever itself. It is also seen in VSD, and it is also heard in patients with the patent ductus arteriosus. Now, what I will do is I'll just give you the list of all the named murmurs. Like for example, you take Caricum's murmur, just now we have discussed, seen in rheumatic fever. Second, you take Austin-Fleet murmur, that is aortic regurgitation. Gram-Steele's murmur, seen in pulmonary regurgitation. Retand's murmur, seen in patients with complete heart block. Then Dock's murmur, seen in patients with left anterior descending artery stenosis. And then we have Nilweel murmur, that is due to air emboli. So this is the complete list of the named murmurs. Right, and you also have some named murmurs, like in patients with thyrotoxicosis, you have what is called Means-Lerman scratch, which is a mid-systolic murmur. And you also have a named murmur in patients with portal hypertension. So there, the name of the murmur is Baumgarten murmur, right? That is Kruellheer-Baumgarten murmur. So these are the list of the named murmurs. So going back to our question. So our question is on the mitral valve prolapse syndrome, and you see the patient is completely asymptomatic. Remember, majority of the patients with mitral valve prolapse syndrome, they are asymptomatic. If at all they develop symptoms, these patients with mitral valve prolapse syndrome, the most common symptom is your palpitation. Right, the most common symptom is palpitation. And how do you diagnose this mitral valve prolapse? That is by your two-dimensional echocardiography. And what is the drug of choice for these patients with mitral valve prolapse with the palpitations? That is beta blockers. So beta blockers, they are the drug of choice for the mitral valve prolapse syndrome. So this completes the discussion on this named murmurs and as well as mitral valve prolapse syndrome. Right, so I hope this particular video will be useful for your PG entrance exams, and for daily updates on the daily dose, please follow us in this particular channel. Thank you very much.